What's up, guys? We're going to talk, Canon 200 to 800. It's full frame, by the way, with the R5. We're going to compare this against a similar Canon camera because this is 1200 millimeters, and that's really what we care. We care about the long distance shooting. The Olympus OM5 150 to 600, 1200 millimeters equivalent. And we're gonna look at a lot of things, price tag, build quality, image stabilization, image quality, handling. I'll give you my thoughts, and again, stay tuned. I'll give you an overview of the 150 600 overall. But I felt like this is one of those things, it's these are the two players with really long lenses or a lot of reach, and Canon has stepped up their game on giving people long reach for birding and that. So let's look at the size and the weight real quick. All right, there's a substantial difference in the length. Until the Olympus is shorter and it's a little fatty. The Canon initially is longer when it's all put in, but when you extend this out, this is just as long, if not longer, than the Canon. And then that kind of comes down to the usability. Both these lenses handle fairly well. I prefer the Canon overall, just like, handling it. It feels well balanced between this. And I think that's the reason why they distributed the weight, and we'll talk about the build quality, but they distributed the weight kind of evenly so you don't get this feeling like this going on with the Sigma. This is kind of one of those things that Sigma's like, it feels like it's more round, bigger diameter, but also like it's less weight out here. And they've done some things to do that, but shooting handheld, like out in the field, or partially, just kind of holding it even steel, it feels better with the Canon. But this longer reach or this longer lens, when you're shooting out of a car, you have more of a tendency to kind of bump things because it's like 3 or 4 more inches past the Olympus, right? So they're both with a camera setup. You're going to probably be over 5 pounds with both these. So there's not really like a huge weight, benefit on either one of them. But this is a little bit more stouty and compact and kind of reel it in. Now let's look at the build quality. This is where I was kind of surprised. The 150 to 600 Olympus is very similar to the Sigma 150 to 600 Sport Edition. So it's been tried, tested, revamped. Olympus kind of Olympinized a lot of the seals and all that kind of stuff and put in a little bit more weather sealing. They're kind of known for tough lenses and tough stuff, and you can kind of feel that if you look at the front here. Notice the sound. It's got like rubber. It's more metal. It's just kind of beefier and stoutier. We look at the Canon. Check this out. All right, I seen online where some guy broke this. So it's longer. You might bang it around. You might slam it around. Some guy broke this and was like $1,000 to fix or something like that to send it in. This lens, although, it doesn't feel like a true, we felt the 400 mil Canon lenses, the F2s, where they're just all metal and you can beat the bejesus out of them, right? This feels not consumer grade, but it doesn't feel as tough as this. So if I had to go build quality overall and I wanted to, beat it around, I would go the Olympus 150 to 600. If you're really going to get it wet and beat it around, it just feels like it will take the beating, and it's been tested a little bit more. There might be some revamping later on the Canon, but I think they've done a few things. The metal or the aluminum and all this stuff they've used might be to keep the weight down, because remember, this is a true 800 mil. It should be. It's surprising they get 800 mil in this. Now again, it's f9 versus the 800 mil, the 600 mil f6.3. So what's that equate to? We talked 1200 millimeters, f8 or f9 at 1200 millimeters on the Canon is equal to like an f14.4 full frame. This is like 12.6 at 1200 millimeters full frame. So 1280, 14.4, 1200, 12.6. I think you get it. The advantages, obviously, is you can use this as a full frame f9. And that's a huge difference, or a huge advantage, if you're looking at the Olympus 150 to 400, because that goes out to 800 millimeters at f9. So you kind of get two lenses, you know, two birds with one stone. You get an R5, 45 megapixels, f9, which is equivalent to the Olympus 150 to 400 f4.5, because you got to multiply both of them, field of view. Although the ISO is different, but then everybody says, well, it's full frame, you get twice the ISO performance, so it's a mix and a match, whatever it is. So you get kind of two things for the price of one, which is a heck of a deal. So outside of that, we're looking, the build quality, give it to the Olympus, the adaptability, give it to the Canon, because you go full frame and all that. Image stabilization at the long end, 1280 millimeters and 1200 millimeters. Olympus is known for their stabilization, but I got to say, Canon, they've been stepping up their game, because I feel that the lens stabilization on this is a little better than the Olympus overall. There was rumors that Olympus had some issues with their stabilization over the years, going past 500 millimeters. Maybe it's so aggressive. Maybe it's the camera. OM5 has got some really good stabilization, but I just felt like the Canon version, I don't know why, their stabilization just seems awesome. So slight edge to Canon for the stabilization, slight edge for Olympus on the build quality. Price tag, almost the same, $100 between them. Olympus came down, or maybe this is just a Thanksgiving sale. They're down to $19.99. It was $26.99, which is absurd, but they're down to $19.99. I think that's a fair price. It puts them right in the super zoom classes for Fuji and Sony and Nikon. We're good. $18.99 for the Canon 200 to 600, or 200 to 800, if you can find it. I had to wait forever to get this thing, and so there you go. Maybe $100, difference price wise for the Canon. That's a good deal. So let's go to image quality, or first let's back up. Focus speed. All right, 150 to 600. Olympus, Sigma, whatever you call it, the Sport Edition, it's been known, it's a fast lens for focusing. You're going to get birds in flight. You're going to get this. What's the major difference? The body you put it on. And that's the same with the Canon. This has super fast, sticky, lightning-like focus speed on the R5. It was obviously, the R5 versus the OM5, no comparison. R5 is just crushing it. I auto detect. And that's what it comes down to. If this 150 to 600 was on an OM1 Mark II with the sticky things, then it comes down to tweaking. So overall, just know, if you're worried about the focus speed of the lenses, they'll do their job. They'll make it happen. It's good enough. It's going to be how you use it with the body that you put on it. There's all kinds of tweaks in these with the Sony system. I went through a 2-hour tutorial on Sony, their focus system and their tracking, and you're just, whoa. So once you get into it, if you're really into it, just know you won't be really suffering through a lot, saying, boy, I really had that. It will be more the camera bodies and the system than the lenses that are provided here. All right, the last thing, image quality, resolution, contrast, all that kind of stuff. So resolution, I would say it's almost a dead heat resolution wise. If I had to choose, a slight advantage on the Canon 200 to 800, but overall it's so negligible. It's like, just shoot. You're not going to notice it. You're in real world conditions. You're not going to notice it. No, overall it's just great. So here's a picture of two squirrels, almost dark. ISO, I think it was 1600 on the Olympus and like 800 on the Canon. If we look at them, almost identical. If we look at the background and the pop and the blur, we'll notice something slightly. So we'll notice that the bokeh balls on the 200 to 800 Canon are blown up more. That's because we have more compression going on. It's a true 800 mil lens, so it's bringing it in. It's expanding it a little bit. Where on the Olympus, it's still there. It looks really pretty. And this is just a preference thing. If I had to say the bokeh or bokeh, once you put the Olympus on a full frame, it's going to crush it. But, in the full frame mode, but it's so close. If you're using it at 1200 millimeters, remember you have f 6.3 on the Olympus, so it's going to get you a little bit more blur, but you got the compression of the Canon, which is going to give you a little bit more distortion and blur there. The imagination of the background and the bokeh blur. So dead heat, guys. It's just who do you want to choose? I can't really say that. Now the camera, I should say, contrast and colors. This is another touchy subject because we get into the JPEG image pipeline and how these cameras render it. For me, I thought the Canon had a more pleasing color palette. Just the way it works, you know, a little less noise because it's full frame sensor. You could put it on OM, you know, the Olympus OM1 and say it'd be better, but this is just across the board the way Olympus does it. Olympus has a tendency to make their images more film-like. I know that's overused, but they just make it more film-ish like. Canon creates this image that's just glossy. It's just smooth, and it just seems to kind of really have an organic look to it. They've gone, you know, kind of beyond the whole film look and all that stuff. So image quality wise, for color contrast, I would slightly give it to the Canon. I don't know if that's the you know, JPEG engine or just the glass. And then there is one thing I do notice with the 150 to 600 that is, I guess, more, it's an issue, a slight issue. It's purple fringing. In certain lighting conditions, you will notice on the 150 to 600 Olympus that has some purple fringing kind of coming in, just kind of, and so it can be a little, but you have to pixel peep it, right? You have to pixel peep it in that to really kind of notice in it. So the takeaway here, guys, is if you have any one of these and you were wondering, oh man, I wonder what it's like on the other side of the fence. Should I buy one? Don't worry, don't do it. You know, it's not that big a deal to switch up. You'd be happy with either one of these. It's mainly, it's going to be how you use it with your camera body. And that's the extremes. Like, everybody's taking great photos now. Everybody's got sharp photos. Color contrast is there. It's the bodies and the whole overall system you got to look at. So how I'd break this down, and this is one of the things I'm going through because I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep both these systems. It's just too expensive to have around. It's how do I shoot? You know, I looked at the, if you guys check out the 800 mil prime shootout. I'm going to be selling those 800 mil primes. I have a couple of them, the f5.6. I'll just be getting rid of them. It's not enough when I look at what I have here for portability and that. Yes, the image quality is better, but it's not that much better if I get the right settings in the camera and the right setup. You know, and then of course the ISO's improved a lot over the years. And so this is an 800 mil f9. When I shoot trees in the background, it almost looks as good as the f5.600, you know, 800 mil. It's a lot smaller. So what system do you go to? And it's one of those, well, what kind of shooting do you do? What, you know, obviously you can have a whole setup of other camera systems like other lenses, but do you walk around a lot and you want really light lenses? Go Olympus. Do you really want that full frame advantage to where you can do both APS-C and full frame? Then you get like an R5, you know, or do you want like higher megapixels where you put this on an R7, you get 32 megapixels and you get like a lot of detail there, you know, maybe more than you would in Olympus. So it's one of those things. What kind of system do you have? What do the bodies do? Do you want the computational photography? Because I'll tell you what, computational photography with this at the 50 megapixel level beats the 45 megapixel image on the Canon in my estimates. You know, comparing the two, if I really want a high quality shot, I put it in high res mode and shoot it, and it seems to have a better look to the image versus, you know, more resolution than that. So it's really kind of, it's a tough call. Overall, you can't go wrong. It's a great time to be a photographer with these long lenses nowadays. I hope this helps, guys. I hope it does. You know, it's one of those, I've been trying to get a hold of this 200 to 800 forever. Finally got it. It kind of replaces, it replaces the 800 mil f5.6 for me. That thing's just too big. It's too much of a pain. Yes, there is image quality better, but you pay a price forever. And that's kind of the takeaway here. Do you have a smaller system where you deal with, you know, high ISO issues, but you get portability? You get full frame or no full frame issues. It's all up to you guys. Take it as it goes. Comments, questions below. See you later.